Hey there, internet friends. Welcome back to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a usually weekly podcast where team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and back this week after fighting off an illness last week, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cam?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Yep, back recovered from the flu, and also just got fired. So, well, let go. But
Yay for a busy week for
yeah,
Cameron.
very busy, awful week for me. Yeah, I shouldn't say fired because that usually means like I did something like egregious, and this was more of just like a letting go. So
Sure. So yeah, we're going to be talking today not about that
not at all.
and
Nope,
the
I'm done talking
struggles
about it.
of life. We're going to be talking about Cameron has been playing Dave the Diver as well as Elden Ring and Final Fantasy XIV leading up to their upcoming expansions. And I, just as of an hour-ish ago, finished my replay through everything of Fallout 4, including the DLC and stuff. So I'm going to give my kind of updated thoughts on that stuff.
Do you have the full platinum now, or do you still?
So I've had the full platinum for a couple weeks, but I did manage to 100% all of the DLC trophies
There you go.
as of this morning. So yeah, we will chat about that, and some of which I had not done in my original PS4 playthrough of the game. So yeah. If you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. So, Cam, let's start things off with a game that I have also downloaded to my PS5, but I'm not actually hopped into yet. Dave the Diver.
Yeah, Dave the Diver is from after playing it for a couple of hours, I completely see why it made people's top 10 lists.
I believe it was on Frank's top 10
list. It was on Frank's top 10 list, yeah. It's a pixel game that mixes itself up with a little bit of Cooking Mama, with a little bit of it's not Cookie Mama. There's another game where you are like a waitress and you're like taking dishes out to specific
Diner Dash.
Diner Dash. There you go.
Is it actually Diner?
I think it's Diner Dash. Yeah.
I mean, I remember that being like a very OG like flash animation
flash
game kind of thing,
early iOS game. Like those early like. They took the Flash game and adapted it to iOS. Yeah, Diner Dash, I believe, is what it was. Gal with a ponytail. You were running around getting people their meals. It's a mix of that as well as like an underwater exploration kind of side scroller. It's a lot of fun, and I think the thing that really carries it is the fact that it has just a whole lot of flair and a whole lot of flavor to it. Rather than being so hyper focused on like the fish, it really is more about like the exploration of underwater. Fish do matter depending on like what kind of dishes you want to make, but that doesn't impact it as much as making sure you're just stocked. Oh, I should have had that muted. I apologize. You should have had like you just need to have certain fish stocked because they're very popular.
Mm-hmm.
So other than that, like you're pretty much good. It's a matter of really just exploring out because there's different characters that give you kind of side missions, and including like the kind of like mystery of this like kind of like it plays it off like a joke in like this is clearly like Dave's imagination of what he's being told, but he sees like modern people living in like modern houses like under the water as like this underwater civilization. But you like that's a big part of it is this exploration of like this underwater civilization and kind of a like there's some earthquakes going on, and so it might be like some premeditated disaster. There's like a kraken that shows up early on in the game that like is like out there kind of menacingly. But really it is all about that exploration, upgrading your suit, upgrading your gear so you can go deeper, catch bigger fish, catch more, ranked fish. There's a whole Instagram thing about it, which is how you like as you have successful shifts, you get more followers. I've reached a point where I'm so successful I don't have enough staff on hand, and so I have to like figure that out right now.
I was gonna say, how quickly did you surpass your own social media following and start feeling bad about it?
I haven't reached that yet. No.
Oh, okay. So you don't have a ton of followers then in the game.
No, and it does like I think right now I'm trying to get up to 100 followers for like gold rank, so they're not like really like these exponential numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not really the idea and focus of it. Rather than that, it is much more focused on just growing. Just like it's really more arbitrary than anything else. It's just meant to kind of like show your growth as you're competing. I had my first like under my first under 4-star performance recently, and like as far as like a like dining experience, because the free staff member they give you is too slow to keep up with everything, and you are just like one person trying to get dishes out. And also I've reached a point where like my sushi chef doesn't have enough time to prep all the food and get all the food ready to go out on time as well. And so it's like, okay, I am at a point now where I got to sell some stuff. I upgraded my suit and stuff and whatnot, and I didn't have anything in reserves to do this. So I got to sell some extra fish that I have.
You got to balance.
I got to balance
the
it out.
diving aspect and the
Exactly.
diner dash aspect.
Exactly. It's fun and it's full of style. Shout out to Jarrett Green from Irrational Passions. I did not know that he was in the game as the sushi chef. This is a joke because the sushi chef looks like exactly like Jarrett Green.
Okay.
And I believe that when the Dave the Diver came out, I believe he might have actually even had like his profile picture switched over to it. But it has like real Jarrett energy to it. And sure. I really, really love that. Getting that in there. There's another guy named Cobra who's like this old, like clearly like former CIA guy who's all about like making a quick buck off of this sushi restaurant. And then Dave is just kind of like this, like, okay, all right, sure. Kind of like meeker person, who just happens to be like a pretty dang good diver. I just had an encounter once where like I dropped down and one of the, like I'd previously seen 2 dolphins who like kind of led me to a treasure once. One of them showed up, the gray one, and the pink one's missing. And it's like, and it was like, he was trying to get me to follow him and I followed him, and it turns out pirates had captured the pink dolphin. And I had to like use my knife to cut the rope, but at the same time, pirates were shooting down at me. Mm-hmm. And so I had to like dodge where like they have like the red laser sights where they're going to shoot. Sure. You have to like avoid that.
Yeah.
And like at the same time, like it's a tough rope to cut. And so it's like, it's also like slowly climbing as the ship is like going away. And it's like, oh man, I really hope I got through it. And I got through that challenge and got like a gold bar for it. And it was super nice. And realized I have to sell that gold bar in order to get like money from it.
Yeah, that's how commerce works.
Yep. I just have not been selling things, and I've now learned like that is a big problem.
Yeah. Are you excited for the Godzilla DLC that comes next week?
Oh, 100%. Holy shit, I didn't even know that was happening.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that was a big like fun reveal, I think, at the
I remember this now.
Like the Godzilla DLC, and because you're playing it on PlayStation, right?
Yeah,
it will be free with the like PS Plus
hells yeah
package. So yeah, you should have that starting the 23rd. I just looked it up. So yeah,
cool.
It'll be a fun extra thing for you that you'll kind of already be in the flow and in the swing of things.
I mean, it's really an awesome game. Game loop mechanic on it is really, really sick. I totally understand why it was like up there for so many people last year. Definitely would not have cracked my top 10 last year, but it is a game worthwhile. Even though like, I do not believe it is like a traditional indie game.
Sure. Yeah.
It's in the indies. I will put it this way. There is clear like AAA polish to an indie style game, and what definitely had like an indie budget. Mm-hmm. But there is like a level of like, there is a level of precision that you see from like seasoned developers here. So.
Okay. Any final thoughts on Dave the Diver before we move on to Elden Ring?
Yeah. So far, I would give it like a solid like 3.5 out of 4 out of 5. If I was reviewing it, so
3.5 out of 4 out of 5.
3.5 to 4 out of 5.
Got it. Okay.
There are some like frustrations with some of like the.
You realize that nerdy site has a 10 point or a
I forgot about
20
that.
Point scale.
I would definitely call it like this is a solid like 7.5 to an 8. Like as I get further into it, I think it'll probably grow into an 8. But if this was all it was, I think this would be a solid 7.5.
Sure. Good to great.
Yeah, good to great. I think for sure. It probably will end up on the great scale by the time I'm done with it, but it's a solid game.
Cool. Then let's pop over to Elden Ring as you prepare for Shadow of the Erd Tree. And so yeah, I started to ask this before we started recording because you were like, yeah, I don't really have a ton to talk about with Elden Ring, but I did see you had hopped back into it earlier. And so my question is, notoriously, I think with FromSoft games, like jumping into the DLC if you're one of those crazy people like you who is like on New Game Plus Plus, the DLC is going to be infinitely harder than if you were doing it like on your original run.
Yeah,
So yeah, are you planning on playing it on one of your like more built out characters that is in a New Game Plus situation, or are you just starting a fresh run so that you'll have kind of a fresh character but will be like ready for it?
I'm of two minds. One of them being that, like looking at what I have going on right now with it, I think that. So I've been testing myself against some end game bosses for. I'm currently in a New Game Plus Plus for my main character. Like late 200, like high 200 levels. I think I'm at like 270 something or maybe 280 something. Not as crazy as some folks out there. And this is mostly through just playing through the game a couple of times. Very few, like outside of my first playthrough where I went to 150 before I beat the game. Because like my play style was like not suited for the end game boss, like the actual boss of the end at the end of the game. And it took a lot of like adaptability plus like over leveling to get myself to a point where I felt like good with it. Granted, then I did it a New Game Plus and like one shotted those freaks. So it was not like, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But when it comes to this New Game Plus Plus, I had an even easier time being the end boss. And now I'm doing the other additional end game bosses. And I've got to a point where it's like, okay, these guys are like, I notoriously in my New Game Plus, I never faced Melania Blade of Mikla on my first playthrough. I gave up trying to figure out the Halig tree before I did a New Game Plus because I wanted to do everything my first playthrough without a guide. And so I did, but I did that because that I didn't know the like extreme complications of how to even get to Melania. But the first, notoriously, my New Game Plus, I have like the save video of it on my PlayStation. Of I've like one-shotted Melania, both of her forms, like no problem. And it was kind of like a thing where it's like I'm totally prepared for like the next couple of hours to like really learn her move set, really get into it, and then just one-shotted her hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I was not expecting that. Moving on,
and because this is in particular like a notoriously difficult boss.
Yes.
This last week, like a big streamer finally took Millennia down after how many hours of like trying?
It was over
30
50
hours
hours of in-game time, and he died over 800 times to her. I have never gotten to that point with her. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's just like I'm too over leveled for this part of the, like for this New Game Plus Plus, where now that I am in the New Game Plus Plus, I am having some difficulty. I can regularly get her to her second form without too much issue unless I like seriously botch myself. Like I ended up like backing myself into like a tree root corner. And so I couldn't back out of like her like epic combo slash that, it's not really that big of a deal. She has some easier cheeses in my opinion, whether it's like bleed or frost. So you can like pretty much whittle her down. It's just a matter of like managing your resources a little bit. I still haven't beaten her. I wanted to go try to pick up an Art of War that has some frost because I've never fought her with frost. I've only ever used like my standard combo with the Blasphemous Blade.
Because her big thing is when she hits you, she basically absorbs your health and it restores hers.
Yeah.
Right? So,
but I mean, yeah, but with Blasphemous Blade, I do the same exact goddamn thing. So,
okay.
Like, it's not an impossibility for me just to like absolutely wreck shop with her. And her first form, I can usually get down pretty significantly and pretty easily. It's her second form because of some like bigger like leaps and moves that it will like by the time I get down to that point, I'm on lower resources. And it's just really at this point about resource management and kind of like my approach. I'm thinking at this point, I'm just going to cheese her with some frostbite because I know that her frost resistance is lower than her bleed resistance, which is the only reason I'm doing it.
Who is in your opinion, who is the hardest boss of Elden Ring?
Oh. For me, I mean, obviously between the two of us, it was the fire giant. I think
that's the correct answer. Yes.
Yeah, the fire giant.
And also I know even before we fought the fire giant, I remember the days plural that you were in here cursing up a storm, not being able to defeat him.
Yeah. The fire giant is just, the fire giant is super antithetical to like a direct playthrough or like a direct combat initiative. So like going in there wailing on it, it's really, the fire giant is really built more for like agile hit and runs. That like was never a part of our playthrough. It is not really like my preferred style of even playing a Souls game. I don't like to do these chip damages or these like cheesing out strategies. I don't like to do that. I like to be strong enough and smart enough to get over things and deal with things. The problem is that it's a combination of the snow, the slope of the arena that the boss arena is in, and then on top of that, just the notoriously like bad second phase of him.
The size and breadth of his attacks was the thing that like, it's like, okay, yeah, if I'm anywhere around, I can't roll out of that because I'm in the center of his hit zone, and even like trying to duck out of the way, I'm gonna still get hit by it.
Yeah, the easiest way to take him on, I feel, is like on horseback, which is just an impossibility if you're two playering it without seamless playthrough. I think if we had done it on a PC with seamless playthrough, we easily could have done it because we both could have been on horse and gotten out of his attack range. But like, I would never like want you to be trying to manage magic on horseback while also trying to avoid all those attacks. Like, that's just nonsense.
Sure.
It's absolute nonsense and bullshit, and that boss sucks. After that, I think the other hardest boss is the end boss of the game. I'm just gonna spoil it here. Radigan and the Elden Beast are two bosses that like are two vastly different kinds of bosses, and you have to face them one after the other.
Yeah, it's a two-phase fight.
Yeah, it's that two-phase fight that is, for me, it took a really, really long time to memorize kind of like the brutality of the Radigan fight, and then against the Elden Beast, it is a matter of having enough resources left over, as well as knowing his moves enough to know how to dodge in this massive boss arena. The biggest problem that people have, and it's definitely something I had, and I had to learn how to undo it, is not having yourself locked onto the Elden Beast all the time. Paying attention to what's going on in the boss arena more so than what you're paying attention to what the boss is doing. Because the boss is going to make like the same like 6 movements, but it could be various different moves. Like, his movements don't always telegraph what the move he's going to use is, what's going on in the arena around you. So paying attention to when you're seeing like the spikes or like the lights in the air around the boss show up, then you know you need to like focus on like maneuvering around and running away, because it's homing. It's going to be using like a homing laser basically to just fire a bunch of lasers at you. Whether it's when the boss is going to be throwing out like cosmic breath at you that's going to explode, it's knowing to get out of that range because it's coming down in a cone/column. When it comes to the boss like throwing down this golden glyph, it's about jumping over the constraining of the glyph as it's coming in and then getting out of that range of effect. It's paying attention to what's going on in that boss arena and then getting up close to the boss and just wailing on him. And then he goes down pretty easily after that. But getting to know that boss intimately as much as I have really took, like, we're talking, you said it took you were days. It took me weeks to beat Radigan and the Elden Beast. Beating Radigan and then finding out the Elden Beast is right after that fight literally broke me. It literally broke my brain. Because I had it was bad. I was in a bad shape. But eventually, like, it's just a matter of like learning how to do that. Yeah, the best tip I ever have about Elden Beast is don't lock onto him until you're like ready to do attacks. That's the only reason you should.
But we are speaking, I don't remember if I think we probably mentioned it, at least in passing on the podcast at some point, but that was, probably months and months ago. But you did get the platinum in Elden Ring.
Yeah, I did.
So
I finished up last year before.
Everything that they've deemed that you can do.
There's other bosses and other tombs and stuff that I've, of course, missed. Because I've never done like a completionist run of it.
Sure. So
like this was like me. I've been going through some like end game boss dungeon stuff to like kind of like feel out like, okay, how bad is my new game plus going to be if I do this DLC? And at this point, I've made the determination after today and like really going through a couple of things. I'm gonna be using one of my characters that I was doing for a So I was attempting. So I was keeping my main character with you, and only progressing through the story enough to like catch up to you on some stuff. And I didn't want to do a third new game plus or a third game playthrough to get like my final ending. And so I was doing it through a separate character. So that character is still on their new game plus or still on their first new game. So they haven't done a new game plus yet. And so I think that's the character I'm going to take in. I might do a level tier and like change out my stats to do something completely different. We'll see. But this is my Black Flame monk build, my Black Flame like spear build. That is pretty devastating. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, a lot of that means nothing to me, but cool.
It's the Black Fire stuff, so it does like not only does it do massive damage up front, but it also does like dot damage and prevents people who have recovery from recovering their health because it grays out that bar.
Gotcha. When does the Shadow of the Erd Tree come out? This week? Is it also this week?
I don't believe so. I believe it is. It's in June.
Okay.
It is in June proper. So I was doing this just to kind of get ready for it, and see like kind of like feel out where my playthrough is going to be. Also, I wanted to see how far I could take Rocky Balboa, a character I made a while back that is a pure fist build, like pure fist strength and endurance build. And just been doing that. I did that, and then I faced off against a big old monster, and I'm like, fists really are bad against that. But the reason I'm doing that because the Shadow of the Erd Tree is going to be dropping new Ashes of War that are specific towards like fist melee builds. So they heard the call from software, heard people say, "Hey, we really want more. You gave us all these fist weapons. We'd like more fist like Ashes of Wars and abilities and skills and stuff." And from the trailer, it looks like we're getting quite a few. So,
yeah, I double checked. It looks like Shadow of the Erd Tree dropping June 21st.
Yep, June 21st, and then a week later, Dawn Trail comes out.
Yeah, which was going to be the segue into your Fallout or your Final Fantasy 14 stuff. Because yeah, I remember that being the fun little Yoshi P thing of like we wanted to release it earlier, but then Shadow of the Erd Tree is coming out, so we've delayed. Like a week or two?
He's like, you have 1 week to finish the DLC.
Yeah, there you go.
Because it's like, yeah, Yoshi P notoriously is a big fan of like many different genres of games, including the Elden. Like he was big into Elden Ring. Like when it dropped, he was like, that's what he talked about. So yeah, no, he is awesome. Yoshi P is awesome. Obviously, there is just a whole lot going on about Dawn Trail that I'm super stoked about. They just released the job trailer. And I've previously been leveling up a thief. And now I've gotten him to ninja, and I've just been kind of doing that to, get ready for, because ninjas / thieves share a sort of skill roll as far as DPS damage goes with the new class Viper. I did a similar thing with Endwalker when I leveled.
That's right. I'm like, the class I'm thinking of is like, oh, the Pictomancer class. I'm like, that's not going to have a thing to do with with thief stuff.
Nope. Here's the thing though. I was not really hyped about Pictomancer until I saw the job trailer for it, and I'm like, this is really cool. Mm-hmm. It's really, really cool. Because it's like, if you haven't checked it out, it has like a bajillion things going on. Dragoon just got a massive rework for their job. So like shout out to Dragoon mains. They're like, they've got their stuff like really simplified and really like boiled down to like some really good stuff. With some really cool combos that they can do now. Reapers, they gave us a nuke, that we're just gonna have. We're gonna have this massive like blow up spell as well as some additional like combo maneuver stuff, kind of simplifying out our combo. So looking forward to that as a Reaper main. And
do they do anything to help black mages?
Yes, they did actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they gave a couple of bonus things for black mages as well. Mostly to make sure that you don't stay in one place and die because you don't want to leave your sigil on the ground.
Fair.
I
mean, I am unlikely to hop back into Dawn Trail, which is disappointing because like I love that it's leaning hard into the Final Fantasy IX lore and history and stuff like that, as that is one of my very favorite of the Final Fantasies. But yeah, I'm just not. I don't think after I had my 400 plus hours of playing through everything up through Endwalker, and I'm like, I think I'm good there. I don't know if I need to go back to an MMO, because just by nature, not my vibe. It was a good time in pandemic era to devote that much time to it, but yeah, it's just I don't think it'll be my scene. But I'm glad you're hopping back in and enjoying it. I
Yep.
mean, are they? Because you've already done all of the like all of the new the point release story stuff
Yes,
in between stuff, right? So there's
I'm fully caught up.
yeah, okay. So you're hopping back in not to play new content necessarily, so much as to level up new other builds or other characters stuff.
Yeah, just to get myself familiar with it. I had never done anything besides tank. Playing through Final Fantasy 14. So when I wanted to class change to Reaper, like I wanted to get that Reaper going. And when Endwalker came out, I had swapped over. So in order to learn, so I found out that they were going to have directionals, which is something only Dragoons have. That's one of the reasons why they share the maiming sets with Dragoons, is because they kind of fill out that directional DPS role. Reapers, and so like I learned directional DPS based off of like the Dragoon build, and then for Reaper it was a lot easier to adapt to and get that down without having any issues. Knowing how to like, I knew how to position myself as a tank, even for like more strategic tank positioning. I knew, but I didn't know how to run DPS positionals and like end game stuff. And so learning how to do that has helped me as a Reaper to do that. I wanted to do the same thing with Ninja, kind of learn like the idea of building out like specific combos that ninjas do to kind of like pop off on their abilities. I knew that would have some sort of like relation to what they're doing with Viper, maybe. I feel like less like I don't feel like I need to like max out my my ninja to get Reaper, like understand Reaper stuff, because I feel like I kind of have that down at this point. Reaper just looks really cool. It's this.
You mean Viper?
Viper. What is I was saying
You've been
Reaper?
saying
Sorry,
Reaper, yeah.
sorry, I meant Viper. The kind of correlation between Thief and Viper, I think, is going to be less as reliant on like directional DPS, like Dragoon to Reaper was. So Viper, I'm super stoked for, especially watching their job actions. They're really awesome. There are a lot of combos and a lot of just like kind of piecing things together and sliding between your dual blade and then kind of like swallow sword, like double bladed. You have your dual wielding swords and then your kind of like double sworded single blade or single like two-hander, I guess, at that point. I don't know how to explain it. It's the thief's. If you're familiar with Final Fantasy 9, it's the thief's sword.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the kind of like Chrono Cross swallow blade,
Yeah.
two swords put together at the hilt. There's a lot of stuff going on with that looks really, really awesome and looks like it's really heavy combo dependent. So I'm super stoked to get into that. Yeah, I'm pumped for it. I've just been kind of like doing some like other stuff as well as like, keeping my estate up because, my estate is something that like it was really hard to get.
Sure.
And it's a small plot and I have a like really beautiful, cozy, like nice home and decor now. And I don't want to lose that. So
Sure.
I've been logging in relatively regularly just to kind of like keep that up and to make sure they don't put my house back on the market. So
makes sense. Cool. Any, I guess, are you doing side stuff that you just never done before? I remember for a while there you were doing the what's his butt, the silly detective goofy.
Oh yeah,
character.
I was doing that so I could get the weapon, I was called the Madripoor weapon, but it's not. It's the Hildebrand, the Hildebrand quest line. It was a requirement to get the like the Hildebrand, I'm trying to remember what his dad, the God Bird. It's like the Manderville. It's the Manderville weapon. That's what it is.
Gotcha.
The Manderville weapon set, which is kind of like the legacy weapon for Endwalker, requires you to do the Hildebrand stuff, which is like the bane of my existence. Because I just don't find it funny.
Which always, that always amuses me because that strikes me as so up your alley.
You'd think. Before I was like, I kind of don't like the way that Hildebrand kind of looks like my Warrior of Light, with the goat, because they both had the same kind of like bottom goatee. And so I took that off my Warrior of Light. I'm like, maybe that'll fix it. It's like, nope, I just don't find it. Part of I think the reason why is, I think if it was voiced charismatically by something, that'd be one thing. But the voice in my head for Hildebrand, I can't get out as being like the biggest doofus in the world. And I don't like that, like actual smart people are like, it turns out they were wrong and Hildebrand was right because of circumstances. And it's just kind of dumb.
I mean, that's his whole shtick, yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole shtick of it, and I just don't find that fun.
He's the what was he's the detective from like Pink Panther and stuff. He's the bumbling oaf. He's Mr. Bean.
I mean, he's supposed to be like, yeah, Mr. Magoo, Mr. Bean type thing. I just don't find it funny, and I think maybe if it was voiced by somebody that was funny and was able to like deliver the lines well, but as they're written, I don't find it funny.
Sure, that's fair. Well, at least you got through it, so you got.
Yeah, I decided I wasn't going to upgrade it anymore, so I don't have to do any more Hildebrand quests.
Okay,
because I got a better scythe, so it doesn't matter.
Sure,
and it's the Avatar scythe, which is like in my opinion, the best looking scythe for Reapers. So, Reapers have an avatar that is like their Void Scent companion that they're able to summon, and every Reaper kind of has the same one, but it is a like skull cloaked in like a cloth and has like a big claw hand, and it's very much effigized on the Avatar scythe, and so it's really cool.
So in Dawn Trail, obviously you're preparing to hop in to like check out the Viper class. Are you planning on like switching to a Viper main, or are you going to kind of keep your Reaper as kind of your main focus?
I don't know, because I did what it took to get myself up from level 70 to level 80. Did that kind of like 10 level gap closer by doing Boja stuff, which is like kind of like the end game like grinding thing that you can do for level 60 to 7 or from 70 to 80. But I don't know if that is going to work this time around. I don't know what like the kind of like end game like thing, because I don't really, I think it might just be like, I think it's Eureka again, and I never explored Eureka enough to like know well enough about it, what to do to like level up there fast. I've watched like 3 different guides and I still don't get it. So I've just kind of avoided Eureka, and from what I understood, Eureka was the thing again. Like there's like new Eureka stuff maybe, but at the end of the day for me, it's just, I don't know if I have the patience, because I really wanted to be a Reaper. I don't know how badly I wanted to be a Viper for that to be the case. So We'll see.
Okay, cool. Well, any final Fantasy 14 thoughts?
Yeah, I'm super stoked for Dawn Trails, especially its story. It seems like they've kind of hinted in some of the stuff in the latest point, like, the final patch as far as story content goes. They've kind of hinted at I think the big bad of Dawn Trails is going to be Kuja. That's my personal theory I'm putting out there. Kuja from Final Fantasy IX. This is all about people who are competing for like the throne of I forgot the name of the place, but it's in the New World. It's the Kingdom of the New World.
Is it the 9 something 9, right? Sector 9? No.
I
mean, like so much of the new stuff is like Final Fantasy 9 references, include like one of them I remember being like, oh, that was the name of one of Zidane weapons and blades and whatever. But
yeah, no, I don't know about this one.
Okay.
I forgot what it's called, but it is the capital of the New World. It's like a unified kingdom now, but the king, his heirs are all adopted, and so
I would be surprised if they made Kuja the big bad, just because that doesn't seem to be the MO of previous Final Fantasy 14 stuff has not been like the big bad of this chapter is an already known thing. I would expect it to be like, oh, he'll be like the boss of a dungeon or something like that.
I mean, I did fight Golbez for like 3 patches, raids. So
yeah, but again, that's
not the main one. But that was
not
also
the main stuff. I'm thinking of like, oh, I fought Gilgamesh in a battle on the bridge kind of thing, or I fought Ultros. Like I've fought other creatures. The in Endwalker there was the dungeon where it was okay. Here's Dr. Luge and Rubicant, right? Like the fiends basically, but they weren't the big bad that we were facing off against. It was still whatever ascendance nonsense that we or the bird lady.
Medion, yeah.
Yeah.
The end caller.
Sure. So I imagine it'll be that kind of thing where it'd be like, okay, yeah, here's a known quantity that'll be featured heavily, but won't be like the final boss.
The reason why I don't think so, the reason why I think that my theory is solid is because we don't have like that was the ending of the Ascian saga, and this is a brand new expansion adventure type thing. So I think they might lean into having Kuja as one of the like heirs to that you're competing against, basically.
Okay, well, we'll find out in a month and a half's time.
Oh yeah. Also, one of the other ones is a former Charlian scholar who has recruited Thancred and I almost said Ultier, but it's not Ultier. It's trying to remember his name. Can't remember his name. Tall elf man uses the cards. Astrologian. Gosh, I cannot remember his name for the life of me right now. That sucks. People are gonna be like, "Can't believe you, fake fan."
Yeah, sorry that we can't remember the like encyclopedic 50 main characters that you've encountered across 400 hours.
It's Urianger. There we go. Got
it. I did know who you were talking about, but I also couldn't pull the name for you.
Yeah, no, it's Urianger. Urianger and Thancred are going to be supporting a different heir, and so it's the scions are kind of split up a little bit, and it's going to be fun. I'm super excited. It's just we're all in for a ball, and I just can't wait.
Sure. All right. Then moving on and wrapping up with some updated Final Fantasy or Fallout 4 stuff. I finished. I think since we talked about it, because when we talked about it on our big like Fallout episode, I had not delved into like the end game stuff. It was very much like I'm at the point where I can start doing the end game branching paths, but I wanted to like clean up some of the other stuff. I wanted to get all the bobbleheads. I wanted to do all that other stuff, and then also I just knew I needed to prepare to get all the trophies for end game. Of okay, at this point is when I make the save, and then I go and do these quests, and then I go and do these quests, and then I go and reload a save. I don't think I had done the Benevolent Leader trophy at that point, which was that was going to be the big sticking point. Was like, if I can't figure out a way to cheese that, I don't like the outpost stuff in the base building nearly enough to try and like naturally get a settlement up to 100% health happiness. So fortunately, there was a nice, easy way that relied on some of the DLC stuff of like, okay, plop down a robot in a settlement and use cat cages to like get 5 cats, and then release the cat cages because each cat will improve the happiness of a settlement by 10%, and a robot has a base happiness of 50%. So you get the base built up. Basically, I did it at the Red Rocket location, the gas station, and I had to like add a whole bunch of shit to it to get it to be like a large base because that's the requirement of the thing. And then once that was triggered, okay, I released the 5 cats that I've got. I've got the robot built, and boom, 100, and boom, the trophy popped. And I was like,
nice.
Okay, cool. Go. That one's out of the way. Now I can actually make this feasibly an option. So in doing so, I don't remember which option I did in my original playthrough. I have my trophies pulled up, so I can probably look it up.
I did Minuteman in mine.
So I get like Minuteman is like the one I like. I didn't do the dedicated Minuteman thing in this playthrough. I did the other 3 where I for the sake of the trophy, the first one I did was Brotherhood. Then I did the Institute, and then like what I'm deeming as my canon playthrough, which I then continued on and did all the DLC stuff with, was Railroad. So I like because the Minuteman like basically continue to support you in any of those other 3 scenarios. So there wasn't like or at least I didn't like dig into a dedicated option for them. But yeah, I mean, look. So and as a result, like looking back through my PS4 trophies, I probably picked Minuteman because I don't have the Institute trophies, I don't have the Railroad trophies, I don't have the Brotherhood trophies in my PS4 playthrough. So yeah, that is probably the option I chose in that original run.
I think in my final one, I did the like Railroad Minuteman like combo.
Hmm. Yeah, effectively, that's what mine would be.
Yeah.
Like Preston is still on my side, or at least he was still on my side. The Nuka World stuff really throws a wrench in
Oh, I bet.
being a
Yeah.
good guy.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so playing now through the other three, I actually like the Railroad option maybe the best because you blow up the Pridwin and the Institute. So like both of those like big opposing factions are out of the game. Like they still have like remnants and stuff, of course, but those being a couple of like the cool big set pieces of the end game made being like the Railroad a lot of fun, because otherwise it's like whichever faction basically tells you to just go kill the Railroad and you just go into the Railroad base and just slaughter everybody. So
You're I mean, I just don't understand people doing that, because it's like they're literally the Underground Railroad.
mhm.
They're literally the underground. Like, do you need a Harriet Tubman hanging out there to like convince you to understand that these are the good guys? Like,
Yeah, no. So yeah, those and like I'm pretty sure there were probably like conversational checks to be like, okay, you can convince them to leave and like never return kind of
maybe.
thing.
Question for you:
Yeah.
did you reconcile with Sean?
Like yes and no. I did it both ways, kind of thing. In the
Did you have like the MIT rooftop conversation with Sean?
Oh yeah, that's like if you go, I think you have that before the split. And yeah, you'll have that conversation as part of like the one of the quest lines, or as part of the main quest. You'll have that conversation, and then you basically go in, and yeah, he'll make you the leader of the or the next leader of the Institute, because he's gonna die, and you can basically like determine what you want to do from there. But yeah, so there was the, I mean, even in my canon playthrough, I would have had that scene on MIT. I went and I continued to help the Institute after that, but then once you get to a point where it's like, okay, the synths in the Institute are ready to fight for their freedom. Oh, shit's popping off. The Railroad's under attack from the Brotherhood. So we go defend the Railroad against the Brotherhood. And then the Railroad's like, all right, we got to take out the Brotherhood. So here's the Rocket's Red Glare mission. You're going to go to the Cambridge police station, hijack a vertibird. You're going to like basically kill all the Brotherhood people at the police station. You're going to hijack the vertibird, and then you're going to go basically plant some bombs on the Pridwin and flee and blow up the Pridwin, take out everybody in the Brotherhood. In and amongst the mix there, I don't think I uncovered this. Spoilers again for Fallout 4, obviously. I had not uncovered in my original playthrough that Dance is a synth.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I did not remember, or at least if I did uncover it, I didn't remember it. So in my original helping out the Brotherhood, that was just one of the quests I needed to do. So I was like, all right, well, okay. We went, and I was like, all right, I never used Dance as a party member anyway, so I just kind of killed him off, no problem. In my canon playthrough, I talked him out of, like wanting to be dead and being like, hey, like you're still a good guy, even if you're not human, whatever. I also loved in the one where I slaughtered the Railroad, finding out that Deacon, not a synth. So that was a fun, like, hey, he has no synth component, no synth parts, despite his protestations that he is a synth. So yeah, it was fun seeing the other variations. So yeah, in the canon, we go blow up the Brotherhood of Steel, and then we go into or like we work with the people within the Railroad. I told the synths to basically like arm and defend themselves, as opposed to like the guy who was like planning on getting like the 13th synths that he had kind of like cajoled out. like it was like, no, we're gonna free all the synths. So that guy
Nice.
got super pissed at me, like leaves me a suicide note in the in the end game. I was like, oh, that was dark. Basically, like he couldn't live with himself for all of the other people who died in the Institute. But yeah, going through the Institute and kind of like freeing the synths. You find Sean in his bed, like on his deathbed, basically, and he's pissed, obviously, that I've I've betrayed the Institute. And so like we didn't end things on good terms, but I did pass the speech check to have him like give me the code to his terminal so I could like shut the synths down. I ordered an evacuation of the people in the Institute to try and get a handful of people out. And then in my canon playthrough, one of the last choices you're given after, like when you're about to go, is child Sean synth is there. And in the one where I was just saying like fuck the Institute, I'm siding with the Brotherhood. I was like, this is not my kid, and like people were like, whoa, you're just gonna like leave him here? I'm like, he's not my kid. Let's get out of here. in the canon one, I was like, all right, yeah, like if I'm all about the Railroad, even if you're not my kid, you're a synth, I'm still gonna free you, and you can, I'm gonna hope that you're not a Trojan horse that Sean has planted and bring you in. So that version of Sean is just hanging out at the Railroad.
Nice. My Sean is hanging out at. So I did a. Sean is hanging out at the fortress, the
castle.
The castle.
Yeah.
That's where he's at, right? Like from my last playthrough that I remember. So if you do, this is the interesting thing, that rooftop conversation, if you do if you progress the Railroad far enough and the Institute long enough, both of them at the same time, you get to a point where there is a final mission where you basically side with one group or the other.
Yeah.
If you do that mission before you go talk to Sean on the rooftop, you have a very different kind of conversation with him where he like basically he's like, why would you side against the Institute? Why would you do that? And like you can pass like some speech checks with them to have like I'm doing what I know is right. Like I'm making this decision and I know it's the right decision. And I know like Sean, I still love you. And it's a, like, depending on how you like frame that up, it ends being like very much being so your follow-up conversation with Sean when he's in his bed dying can be one where it is more of a like not angry so much as just like, so this is where we're at. Like you've accomplished what you set out to do. Like, and he mentions, he's like, I always wanted to know if you would like if I let you go, if you'd find me. And I was like, I did find you. Like, of course I found you. You're my son. I love you. And at that moment is also like a moment where like he's like mentions his mom, and it's like a very like tender moment that's just really, really tragic and sad.
So yes, all of that happens. I think you're misremembering.
I might be misremembering it. Yeah.
Where this happens in the story, because all this happens after the Battle of Bunker Hill, which is like you need to determine which side you're gonna kind of partner with, and what I did, talking through it and looking back through, I sided with the Institute to go attack the Battle of Bunker Hill, but one of your optional items there is warn the Railroad that they're gonna be attacking, and so I did that. So the Railroad shows up and basically is able to fend off against the Institute there, but you still end that quest by going and talking to Sean, and Sean basically is like, what happened? How did things go sideways? How did things go so
interesting.
bad? And
okay.
I basically like deceived him and said like it was an ambush. I don't like
that's interesting.
Like,
okay.
I hid until later the fact that I had helped the Railroad out there.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can confront him there and you can kind of have some of those things. But yeah, because I played it off as like, I don't know how, but the Railroad knew we were coming, and that's why things, and basically you have to take out the courser that is there, fighting alongside you kind of thing. So that there's like no witnesses to report back.
That's cool. I didn't know you could do it that way.
So doing that, and that in I think large part is it's one of the things that's specifically called out in like the optimal playthrough if you're trying to get all the trophies, was like, do this quest and like say you're going to help the Institute, and then warn the railroad, and then when you go talk to Sean, tell him it was an ambush, kind of thing. It's like, it's those are the three things you need to do in this quest if you want to be able to do the Brotherhood and then the Institute, or the railroad
Yeah.
and then the Institute ending.
That's
kind of
cool. I did not know that. That's really awesome.
thing. Yeah, so yeah, doing that, and then basically so still being on, you know, with the Institute. One of my, like, because one of my quests was basically like, for a long time, keep helping Father until we're ready, kind of thing. That was
Yeah.
like the objective marker for that. And so finally, the Sean basically announces to like his little council that his council knows he's dying. And he probably hasn't told you yet, but he basically tells the council that he has named you as the lone survivor to be his like replacement when he passes. And so basically you're just kind of like thrust into
Leadership. Yeah.
Institute leadership. And there's like some stuff there where you can, in my canon playthrough, the like a couple of the people basically dissent, and they lock down one of the labs and basically hold the food of the Institute hostage, and you have to like kind of break in and get them. And like I talked them down, and then one of the people's like, so what are we going to do about them? And I was like, kill them. There's no room for like there's no room for mercy here. Also because I know that I'm going to be, you know, killing all of you. But
that's
yeah,
so cool.
it was very much like I passed a speech check. I didn't get into a firefight with them. It was like, hey, this isn't the way to go about this. And I kind of, and then yeah, it was like, what should we do about them? And your options are like, you know, put them in jail, kind of thing. And I was like, execute them. and the person's like, okay, yeah. I mean, I think it was another like speech check where like if I failed, they probably would have pushed back and been like, we're not going to do that. Like we'll incarcerate them, kind of thing. And they're like, no, I guess, yeah, you're right. They were trying to kill us all by starvation. And so yeah, it was a fun kind of ruthless tact. So yeah, ultimately I liked doing the railroad bit because it was okay. We blew up the Pridwin, and then we blew up the Institute, freeing everybody else. Which otherwise I had done the blowing up the Institute when I did like my Brotherhood of Steel playthrough. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so as the railroad, you basically take out both sides of the thing. And there was probably a point. There was a quest where it was like, go get this guy, but hey, your militia, your Minutemen have showed up because there was a misunderstanding and they called for help, and so the Minutemen are there. And it was basically like, okay, if I get there, it's going to be a moment where the Minutemen and the Institute are going to face off. But I went and talked to the Minutemen and told them to stand down, and passed that speech check. So yeah, ultimately, like the Minutemen are still on my side until I get through the Nuka World stuff, which we'll segue into now. Kind of doing the DLC.
Yeah, well, let me ask you a question, because my favorite DLC is the Far Harbor DLC. The Far Harbor.
Yeah. And that was like, I had done the Far Harbor stuff before, and enjoy it. In the Far Harbor stuff, I made peace with all sides, all the factions there, which is like one of the hardest. Like you have to basically like do a very specific set of circumstances. I think the first time I did it, I probably just blew up the sub, and I imagine I sided with the people of Far Harbor, and maybe like took out Dima and the Children of Adam there. This time around, I basically like I uncovered all of Dima's like memories, including the fact that he had like he'd planted a synth as kind of the main leader of Far Harbor, and we devised a solution that we were going to plant a synth as the High Confessor or whatever in the Children of Adam. So basically, like, took that guy to a secluded place, took him out, and we replaced him with a synth. And so now everybody's kind of being controlled by Dima, but like it is a nice balance on the island. Like the Children of Adam are still getting to be their weird kooky culty selves. Dima and the synths have a safe refuge, and then the people of Far Harbor are safe and can kind of do their thing.
For me, I did I'm recalling it. I made Dima go and confess, but I got the people of Far Harbor to like basically like forgive him.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically you just like, is this one dude, you just have to be like, shut the fuck up. I
Yeah.
think his name's Alan. It's like, Alan, shut the fuck up. like we're not talking about this right now. It's like, I replaced one of you. I'm sorry. I've asked for forgiveness. Blame me. Don't blame the don't blame Arcadia. And everybody's like, oh well, like let's talk about this. And Alan's just like, what talk about? They could replace us in a minute. It's like, shut up, Alan.
Mm-hmm.
Shut your fucking face, you dumbass. All you've been wanting to do is get violent. Shut up.
Yeah.
And so everybody's like, yeah, shut up, Alan. And Alan shuts up. And then it's just like, yeah, from there, it's great. I got the children. I like somehow deceived the children of Adam into like standing down and not being so like aggressive to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what I did. I did something where like I planted something, or I did something like maybe I blackmailed somebody. I don't recall.
Yeah. So like one of the options, or like that Dima gave me, was like he was friends with the previous high priest, whatever guy,
High confessor, yeah.
And basically like created a deep fake tape of that guy.
That's what I did.
Basically saying like, I'm gonna come take back the children of Adam because I think the current high confessor has like gone the wrong way, kind of.
That's
thing.
what I did.
So yeah, you can basically like use that. I used it to basically be like, I'm going to take the high confessor into another, into a back room and kill him, and then like put him in the wall, and like you actually have to drag him into the wall and then like hide his body basically in it. Like you put a concrete wall back up, and he's hidden there, and then like this, you go back to Dima, and the Dima has a synth there of the high confessor that basically you send back. But another option, I think, is basically to convince him to leave and never return.
That's what I did. I did to convince him to leave and never return.
Yeah.
And the person they replaced with is like a pacifist, and so it solves that problem.
Yeah.
I loved also like the giant monsters in Far Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
They were just a lot of fun to fight. Just like the massive lobsters.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What I've been fighting? Like it's in Nuka World is the Gator Claws. I don't remember what the ones in Far Harbor are, but like the Death Claw variant in Far Harbor. Yeah.
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 A lot of fun stuff, man. A lot of fun stuff. Did you convince the girl to go back to her family because she's not a synth?
I didn't. I left the "Are you or aren't you a Sith" out of it, but I did convince her to go back. And it was like regardless of if you're a synth or not, like your parents still love you. They're still your parents, kind of thing. And she basically like accepted that. And yeah, it basically just became "Are you a synth? Aren't you a synth? Who knows?" That's not really a thing we need to rely on or determine. Like, these people love you, and they're here to take care of you. So yeah, had her go back. I'd forgotten the little murder mystery vault in Far Harbor.
Yeah,
with all the Robo Brains.
Yes,
that was a fun little side quest tangent that I hopped in and did, and I'd kind of forgotten. Like, I remembered about halfway through what the twist of it was, where it's like because they're all Robo Brains and just like don't actually have voices, they just have voice modulators. It was like the person that you thought was dead wasn't actually dead. It was like the killer had basically masked the other body in disguise, kind of thing. It's like clever. Yeah. So did that. The other bits of DLC, I think the only DLC I did like while I was doing my normal playthrough was the Vault 88 stuff, which was the Vault Tech Workshop expansion, where basically like you go in and you do experiments with who should have been the overseer, but she's been ghoulified for the last 200 years. And I actively did the things to make it nice for the Vault people. And so she got super pissed and ultimately left. A lot of the other DLC, apart from like Far Harbor, Nuka World, were obviously like super big for the base building. So I hadn't done I hadn't done the robot stuff before, the automatron stuff.
That's a fun quest line, though.
I ended up enjoying the quest line attached to it of like the Mechanist, especially having like been listening to a lot of the Silver Shroud stuff, where the whole Silver Shroud arc is facing off against the Mechanist, and just being like, oh, this is a fun kind of tie-in to.
Did you do all the Mechanist stuff dressed as the Silver Shroud?
No,
I did
not.
It was fun.
Yeah.
You just get a lot of fun dialogue as the Silver Shroud.
Sure, yeah.
It's just a great time.
Yeah, the Speak as Shroud option is always fun. But yeah, doing her stuff was fun. Like to like 100% those trophies is like do those quests and then like build some robots. So that was easy enough to do. The Wasteland Workshop is the DLC where it's like, okay, you can do a whole bunch of like creature taming and stuff. You can build cages and stuff. The trickiest one for me ended up, for this one in particular, it was okay, I'm going to like do all of this and then I'm going to I'm going to do all this to pop the trophies and then load an older save so I don't waste all these resources. Because like one of the trophies is build a trap of every type, and there are 15 different traps, and some of them use like very rare foods and stuff. And so it's like, okay, like I hadn't been picking up canned dog food, so I had to go to like Diamond City and like buy a can at a time until I had enough cans for the dog like cage thing. There's also one of the other ones there is like do a spectated arena fight in a settlement, because there's a mechanic where it's like, okay, you've got a blue arena platform and a red arena platform, and if you assign settlers to those platforms, they will fight each other. And I was like, okay, I got that happening. What does this like spectated thing mean? And it was, okay, you need to have people watching and like cheering on the fight. And the issue I was running into was like everybody was just fighting immediately, and like so I wasn't getting like the spectator thing going on. So I went into Vault 88 where I had like, I didn't have anything in there. People were just kept showing up. So there were like 15 people in this place. No food, no water, no nothing for these people. They are not happy, but they kept showing up. So it meant I had a lot of people there, and I basically threw down a couple chairs and like benches and stuff, and then like had a like little enclosed area where I threw a couple arenas down, got them to fight, and then I ended up like triggering the trophy and getting them to fight. So that was that one. The Contraptions Workshop was very much just okay, like, this is super if you're into the base building. You can build a conveyor belt thing and you can like load up stuff and like, oh, you'll automatically, or you'll like, you load in a, shipment of 100 steel here and you're going to be building out steel balls and you can like lay them out with a conveyor belt or whatever. Like one of them was produce 100 things. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to build a few of these like building things and like knock this trophy out. Like that set of trophies took me all of like 10 minutes and then I just never looked at them again. Because like one of them is display a weapon on a weapon rack, armor on an armor rack, and power armor in a power armor display. Knock that out immediately. Assign a settler to a pillory. Build a pillory and boom, assign a settler to it. And then mass production, produce 100 objects from your builders. That was the one that took a little bit of time, but it was more just, okay, I've got to go get a whole bunch of steel to like load up in these things. And then, finally Nuka World. And looking back at my PS4 trophies in Nuka World, especially as the like Disney guy, like this was the DLC that I was very excited for. But by the time it finally came out, I was so far like removed from playing Fallout 4. So I hopped back into it, and I only ever got the first like Taken for a Ride trophy, which is basically like getting through the gauntlet that gets you into Nuka World. And I did a ton of the other stuff. I just never finished any of the other like quests and got any of the other trophies there. And this time going, especially because I was like, all right, I'm going for the 100% of everything. This was the one I was most mindful of because a couple of trophies. One is collecting all 5 scav magazines that are scattered around. Like there are glitches and stuff where like they will fall through the floor and you won't be able to grab it. Same with the Nuka recipes where you have to like make one of every one of the 20 different beverages. 15 of those beverages you have to just find the recipes for around the world. And they will get blown apart if if they're in an area where you're fighting things and like an explosion happens. They'll get blown around the room, so they're not going to be where you like are expecting to find them, or they may go through some kind of they might go into a wall and you'll never be able to get it. They also have another one that's like a known issue of this one sometimes falls into the floor and you can't grab it. So it was very much I was doing a lot of manual saves to make sure that when I went for one, I was able to get it and then and secure it. And yeah, this one in particular is very much for those that don't know, you go to Nuka World, it's been overtaken by a band of like 3 different raider groups, and you are effectively trying to keep the peace among the raiders. You're basically installed as the leader of these raiders, and you have like Nuka Town, USA, and then there's like Galactic Zone and Safari Zone and the Wild West area and the Kitties area and stuff, and then the bottling plant. And so you've got like 5 different areas that you need to go like clear out and make habitable for the raiders, and then you assign like one of those 3 raider groups to it. And obviously there's 5 groups or 5 zones and only 3 raider groups, so at least one raider group is always going to be like left out a little bit, and that one ends up basically becoming the like, all right, that's the faction that like goes to war with you at the end of the DLC because they feel that you've preferred other groups to them. So I hadn't done that before. Like I'd gone through and I'd cleared out, I think, all the areas. I just hadn't gone through and started like assigning out the raider groups before, because like a lot of it was familiar to me. But yeah, and then the extra tricky thing is like there's a trophy for doing 12 missions for the raider leaders, and those missions are usually go into the Commonwealth and kill a person or collar a person and make them a slave and make them come back here, or yeah, go shoot up the Minutemen kind of thing, and so doing those, it was like, all right, I'm always like going and pissing somebody off. And there were some where I was like, all right, I need to reload a save and throw on a stealth boy so that people don't see me. Like I was telling you, went into Good Neighbor at one point.
Yeah.
And the mission was collar this person. This person was like walking from like leaning up against a wall to a bench like 5 feet away. And that was just kind of their path. And I was like, all right, completely in the open. There's a guy like on guard duty right there. And there's like other people walking around. So the first time I attempted it, I just kind of like crouched, and I was wearing power armor that had, and this ended up being a game changer for me just in terms of like a lot of the combat stuff. The power armor torso I had like a cloaking device, so if I was crouched and standing still, Stealth Boy was on, and it was like a free Stealth Boy basically, and so I was always getting sneak attack, on enemies and stuff like that. If you move, it comes out of stealth, but then if you like stop again, you're invisible again. So I was invisible, and I popped the collar on this person, and the person freaks out. It's like, oh no, starts running off, and I was like, cool, got him. And then I come out of invisibility, like I stand up, come out of invisibility, and people like immediately everybody's at red dot and firing at me. I'm like, ah, shit. So I reloaded a save, threw on an actual stealth boy that wasn't going to leave when I stood up, and basically did it that way, and used that a couple times. There were a couple other times where it was like, kill this person in the dugout in Diamond City. I was like, all right. So standing back, crouched, invisible, pull out my silenced deliverer, just pop the guy's head off, boom, guy's dead. Like mission complete, or mission like objective becomes go talk to the person to like complete it. I'm like, all right, everybody's cool. All right, now I'm just gonna stand up and walk out, and sure enough, everybody's fine. But it was like if you become visible too close to the crime, people put 2 and 2 together. My
biggest issue with Nuka World was like I just never wanted to be the raider leader.
Yeah.
I kind of like was like, well, maybe I can have decisions to kind of do what you do in Vault Tech stuff, where you like subvert the expectations of the people in charge and turn it into something for the better. Yep. And no, it's not an option, and it's like that kind of sucks. And so I never finished Nuka World stuff because I didn't want to.
The worst trophy for that particular thing is there is a trophy for basically setting up 8 raider settlements in the Commonwealth. So you basically have to take over settlements for the raiders and on behalf of the raiders. And so I was like, all right, well, I've got a lot of Minutemen settlements, so I can just kind of like convert them over. And it was like I did it with as little bloodshed as possible. Of I would go to my like it would be like, okay, and they would give you the option, do you want to like tell them to leave? And if you tell them to leave, you can either threaten them or like pay them off, or do you want to just go in guns blazing and like wipe the settlement out and we'll put our people in? I was like, all right, well, these are former Minutemen or whatever. I don't want to kill them. So I would, each time I would go in and basically just intimidate them away. And I've been for the previous 20 levels, I've been rolling a 10 charisma character and just kind of like passing pretty much I think I only failed one intimidation check. But even like, it was basically like intimidation check makes it easier for you to convince them to leave. And then you have like another check that is, okay, now leave.
Gotcha.
Because the difficulty is going to be based on like how many people are in this settlement, what are the defenses in this settlement. If it's a built up settlement, it's going to be tougher to get people to leave. I was pretty much just doing this with like the little farm settlements that had 2 people, and I never really like added anything to it. They just kind of kept being their little 2 farm people. So it was one by one kind of like getting them, and that in and of itself, like, even if you don't want that trophy, that is a quest in the quest line.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to do at least 3 settlements to finish that quest, and then basically just do another 5 on top of that. And so yeah, that I was like, between those 2 things, I was like, all right, this is the end of my playthrough. So I'm just gonna, in my head canon, just be like, all right, my lone wanderer has already destroyed the Institute and the Brotherhood, and so there's a big old crater. There's a big explosion over at the Boston airport, and a crater at the CIT ruins. So yeah, what's one more? You're borderline raider already. So maybe you've come here and you're thinking these Nuka World people have some good ideas, and so yeah, let's go and expand the violence that we have going on here. So it's like I'm doing this with either the intent that I'll load a save that is pre-Nuka World stuff, or I'm not gonna go back to this at this point anyway. So I was like, whatever, these people are gonna just be there and have dealt a shitty hand. So yeah, that is very much like one of the reasons I didn't really click with the Nuka World stuff previously as well. Because there is a quest for you where it's like the doctor in the Nuka market basically will give you a quest that's like, hey, if you just kill all of the leaders, this will just become like a normal trade settlement. Like we'll pull the raiders out of this. And maybe if I do anything, that's what I'll go back and do, and just eliminate the raiders out of the mix now, because I think that also will, like, when I eliminated the raider troop that defected, basically I got a new mission that was, okay, go clear out their remaining raider camp in the Commonwealth, and it becomes restored. Like, you can basically like turn it back into a normal settlement. Right. So I can at this point, but if you do that, if you kill the leaders, you can't do those other quests for the trophies and stuff. So it's like, all right, well, but now I've got all the trophies, so yeah, maybe now I'll go in and I've already killed one of the 4 leaders, so I can just go kill the other 3. And the guy who ends up being your companion from that will not like it. He's very much raider through and through. But so be it. I have had to, in doing some of those things, Preston, I would show back up at like Sanctuary Hills, which has been like my kind of base camp, where I've sent like all of my other companions and stuff. Yeah. He would occasionally come up guns blazing and be like, there are some things that like I can't abide by, kind of thing. And like I shoot him down. He doesn't die, but he basically gets in line, and then he's like, all right, I'm not happy about it, but you clearly are stronger. So, hey, the castle needs help. Let's go defend the castle. And he'll still basically try and be like a Minuteman for you. But yeah, the trophy that ended up being the one that ended up being the last one I got it's a trophy called Eyes on the Prize, where you have to redeem 100,000 tickets in the Nuka-Cade And that just was like 2 to 3 hours of just grinding out a dumb little mini game to get Nuka tickets. Because going through everything else, you'll find maybe 10,000 Nuka tickets kind of scattered around the different lands. And then it was, okay, now I just need to play this little, like, in the Nuka arcade, there's like 5 little mini games you can play. And the easiest one to rack up tickets quick on is a little shooting gallery. And specifically, if you grab like a gun that has like explosives, like I was using the spray and pray gun, which is like a submachine gun, but every bullet has like an explosive AoE range basically. So I could just kind of like shoot the targets for a minute, minute and a half, and rack up between 800 and 1,000 tickets
There you go.
per game. So basically, I was racking up like like 8 tickets a second ish, and so I calculated out and I was like, okay, for the other 90,000 tickets that I need, it's going to be about 3 hours of like just kind of playing through the game. So it was just kind of like, that was a lot of this morning was just kind of mindlessly playing through. I think it got done a little quicker than that, but this is just like an incredibly boring and mundane. Like if it had been 10,000 Nuka tickets or even 20,000 Nuka tickets, it would have been like a way more like easy to achieve kind of thing. But this, like, the forms are just endlessly, this is just one of the most tedious and monotonous trophies I've ever gone for because it's like, it's easy to get, but it's like just time consuming doing nothingness. And there's no real way to speed that up or the way to speed it up is use that explosive gun and just kind of do this to get those 900-ish tickets every minute and change. Because otherwise it's like, okay, yeah, go do whack-a-mole where you're going to get 50 tickets if you're lucky. Or try and do the basketball game or the skee ball game. It's like none of those, physics are not Fallout's forte, so none of those are good. I did see there was somebody who creatively, because you can build some of the machines like as things at your settlement, and I did see somebody basically built a Rube Goldberg machine that was basically just playing the basketball game over and over again and just giving you like an endless thing of tickets. But even that was like, you still need to kind of like, tap the button every few seconds, and like the game will play itself. The basketballs will just constantly be dropped in there and you'll be fine there, but you still need to like start the game, collect the tickets, start the game, collect the tickets, start the game. And so it's still like going to be a long, tedious amount of time to do it. So yeah, it's just like, that was a boring and like disappointing final trophy to get, but I got it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was the, like, aside from that, there was a lot of fun in the Nuka-Cola stuff, especially for a Disney fan. Like there is a whole side quest of like
the frozen head, right?
The hidden cappies leading to the frozen head of John Brad Burton, the Nuka-Cola founder kind of thing. So yeah, you have to in each of the different areas, you have to like throw on special glasses, and there you'll see like the hidden cappy that has like a code. And then, yeah, you go basically, once you found all the codes, you go dial in, and yeah, at the bottom of in a vault will be John Brad Burton's head in a jar, a la the rumors of Walt Disney's Frozen head kind of thing. But
inside the Matterhorn,
he's been there the whole time kind of thing. Like he's been there for the last 250 years. Nobody to talk to. He's just been an alive head in a jar. And so he basically begs for death. He basically asks you to kill him. There's some prototype stuff in the vault. If you cut the power, the vault door will open and I'll be put out of my misery. Please do that. And the person who kind of initiated the quest is like the diehard Nuka-Cola fan from from Capital Wasteland in Fallout 3. She basically like made the pilgrimage to Nuka World, and kind of like prompts this whole thing. She's down there with you, doesn't want you to kill him, offers to basically stay there and keep him company because that's really all he wants. And if you really want to be a dick about it, which I was, you can basically tell her, okay, yeah, you'll spare him. She'll give you her reward, which is like a unique Nuka-Cola jumpsuit. But then you can still cut the power anyway, and he'll be like, "Thank you, merciful death," and she'll be like, "What are you doing? You told me you let it live. And so she'll start to, turn on you and fire against you, and you just kill her. But then you go in, and one of the prototype weapons he has is a nuke, which is basically like a big, it's a fat boy,
Yeah.
but that does like double damage and uses specific. Instead of mini nukes, they use nukes, but you also get the schematics to build nukes. So like you get a few nukes that you can use if you want, and then you can basically like create more, which is nice if you haven't already done everything else in the game at this point, and you don't really need mini nukes and nukes anymore. So, but it's still a fun little side questy thing to do. Similarly, the just going around each of the different areas, it is just fun seeing some of the like tongue-in-cheek references to like the like the cast experience, or hey, this park is not safe at all, we gotta start doing stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, no, they're cutting corners everywhere because of the wartime effort and all this stuff. And it was just a lot of fun going through the different lands and kind of like enjoying and the vibes and everything. If you get one of the trickier collectibles is like the star cores that are in canon used to kind of control all of the robots around the park. But people have stripped those things for parts, so all the robots are running amok. But there are 35 star cores around the area that you can go and collect. And the computer basically tells you there are 7 in Galaxy Zone, there are 5 in the Dry Gulch area, there are 3 in this particular, or I guess not in the Dry Gulch area. There are like, X number outside of Galaxy Zone, which means there's 1 or 2 in each of the other lands. But then there's like 5 in this attraction in the space world. There's 3 in this attraction, so you can get a sense of like where they all are. They're all pretty easy to find. There is one that can't be found until the power gets turned on, which is like the end of the quest line there that turns the power back on at the park. But once you get that and you get like all 35 of them, you can open up a display case that has a like specialized quantum Nuka-Cola power armor, like decked out in like, nice, like teal, just kind of aesthetic. It's like, that's a good looking power armor suit. Yeah, I'll go ahead and rock that as I'm doing this stupid shooting gallery mini game to get 100,000 Nuka tickets. Like there's definitely still fun to be had there, but I agree with you that like if you've gone through everything else trying to be like the good guy, like there's no real good way to be the good guy in Nuka World, unless you just say like, fuck it, I don't care about any of the trophies, I'm just gonna kill all the raiders. And because you can definitely do that, like you could do that basically as soon as you're out of the gauntlet. You can go get that quest and just kind of pop into each area and take them all out. But yeah, then
I might do that.
You're gonna be locked out of all those other all the other trophies, but you should still be able to do like there's still gonna be, you can go into each of those other areas and clear them out and do kind of the fun little side questy things, kind of understand what is going on in each of those little places. Like one of the coolest little things I found, and unfortunately I didn't find it in, I think there was a more optimal order to find this in, but in the Kitty Land, there's basically like a big castle that's like the Fantasyland kind of thing. And you'll find as you go through there, like on the computers, you'll find like the logs of like, oh, they did like a, a little children's show kind of thing. And like, here are the actors in the children's show, and then also there was a magic act, and like Oswald Oppenheimer, I think, was the magician, and Oswald Oppenheimer still there and is a glowing one. He's a glowing one ghoul that has not gone feral. So like he believes he has real magic because he can bring the ghouls back up, and he has basically been defending that part of the park from people trying to come in, from people trying to kill the ghouls, and is like insistent that like, no, there's got to be a cure out there. You like, these are my friends, they're just sick. Stop killing people just because they have a sickness. My friend Rachel has gone out and is out there, scouring the wastes for a cure. She's gonna find it. I believe she's gonna find it. And either you fight him and kill him, or in this version, I convinced him to leave. I was like, there's no cure, man, but like, you go live your life. Go find Rachel. You love this girl. Go find her. I then found Rachel, or Rachel's dead body, and the recording that she had left behind, basically saying like, I've gone everywhere I could. I couldn't find a cure. I'm so sorry. Go live your life, Oswald," kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I imagine if I had found that first,
You could have given
I
it
would
to
have had a
him.
new
Yeah.
dialogue option to basically be like, "I'm sorry, but she didn't make it," kind of thing. So yeah, there's like cool little nuggets like that, and they do a good job of kind of tying the story of the world there together with so many other elements. So yeah, like I ultimately, the Disney fan in me still probably like enjoys the Nuka World stuff more than the Far Harbor stuff, where I just didn't have, like, I don't have a particular connection to that. And I, especially this time, I was super overpowered and going into it and all this stuff. I remember going into it in my earlier build. Also this time I was just like going everywhere in power armor. I had
Gotcha, okay.
hundreds of fusion cores. I was never at risk of like running out of fusion cores. So I was pretty much everywhere I would go, I was going in power armor, just wrecking shop, giving me, extra like carrying capacity and stuff like that, and just being, a beast in power armor. So
Nice.
that made Far Harbor a lot easier this time around. Also, I was playing it on like very easy to just kind of like
Burn through it,
it
yeah.
and stuff. I remember the first time around, like, yeah, Far Harbor, like going out into, because like if you go into the fog, you're basically getting rads pumped into you, and so you're constantly having to do like more management of that stuff. Didn't have to deal with that in power armor.
Yeah.
So it made it a significantly easier, time. The thing that I started struggling with was I kept running out of like aluminum to repair my power armor when I needed to take it back and fix it up. So I marked those, and so I would start picking up every little glowing aluminum thing that I would find. And also finding out that, there are certain shops that sell shipments of aluminum, so you can buy aluminum in bulk if you really need it, kind of stuff. It was like, okay, cool, like that will help manage this. But yeah, I was basically just running around for like the last 30 hours of the game in just full power armor the entire time, and using in particular the X02 Enclave power armor that like came in like one of the new kind of PS5 patches for the game. That was, yeah, like my torso had a stealth boy built into it, so if I was crouching, I was invisible and was getting, and I'd like buffed up some of my stats. Like one of my perks was like sneak level or ninja level 3 or 4 or whatever.
Nice.
And it was basically like if I do sneak attack, instead of getting like 2 times damage, I was getting like 3.5 times damage, and would still be invisible. So I would still probably get, more and more sneak attack stuff. So yeah, I was just like wrecking shop doing that kind of stuff.
I remember when I was playing it, I had like taken a, like in the sanctuary settlement, I had essentially converted one of the plots into like a full-on garage.
Mm-hmm.
And I had all my, like, I basically Iron Manned myself out there.
Yeah, that's,
like,
I mean, yeah, the one of the kind of one of the like buildings in that settlement like has the workbench, it has the armor bench, it has the weapon bench, and it has a power armor set all there from the jump. The only thing I ended up adding was I added a Nuka mixer when I started doing all the Nuka-Cola stuff, because it was way easier for me to just, if I dumped I would always go back to Sanctuary Hills and like dump all of my extra stuff there, including like aid stuff, whereas like I don't need to be running around with 30 bottles of Nuka-Cola. So I'm going to leave that all here. If I ever need it, need a supply or something, I know to come back here and kind of have that. Like that was my stockpile of everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when it gets to, okay, now you've got to make each one of these 20 different like Nuka-Cola mixes, and some of them are like, okay, this one needs a Nuka-Cola dark and a Nuka-Cola orange and a Nuka-Cola wild or something like that. I was like, okay, going to be way easier if I just do this back at base as opposed to in one of the bespoke Nuka-Cola mixers in the park kind of thing. So just kind of like went through, made one of each of those, and then dumped them in the stockpile. But yeah, it was very much, I would fast travel back to Sanctuary Hills, which put you right at that workshop. And so basically like, okay, I'm going to talk to my companion, pull all the stuff out of their backpack, that since I've been using them as a pack mule, dump everything in the weapon bench, like workbench kind of supply, and then walk over to the power armor, get out of the power suit, craft at the power armor thing, and repair everything. Spot weld, add to it. So my power armor had the Stealth Boy torso. The helmet had basically a targeting HUD, so any
Nice.
living thing showed up as like red. So I could see sting wings from 500 feet away or something like that, and be like, okay, I either know to pick them off here from range, get that sneak attack, or avoid them and just kind of move on, kind of thing. Unfortunately, it's not like only hostile things in red, so it was very much like okay, if I'm in a settlement, I need to not just shoot everything that's red. And then I had like Tesla coils on everything.
Nice.
Which meant that anybody who was like in melee range with me was constantly getting a little bit of electrocuted, so they were constantly taking damage. So like anytime I would go into a Mirelurk area where like Mirelurk eggs are gonna like bust open and everything, like the egg busts open and the little baby Mirelurk immediately dies.
Nice.
Immediately electrocuted to death. No little hassles, pain points there. And that continued on for like with rad roaches and also like basically any small creatures. If a bloatfly tried to come and like mess me up, they did not have a good time. And then I had like I think it's hydraulic legs or something that basically is like the deep pocket, so you get more carrying capacity on those legs.
Yeah.
I there were a couple times I was like, maybe I'll switch over to like the jetpack thing if I want to try and like do a little bit of like flying and stuff. I was like, I don't ever need that. I don't ever need that functionality. One of the things I didn't get into that I constantly was like looking at and being like, maybe next time, was I never used I think it's the blacksmith perk. Whatever perk gives you like mods for melee stuff, because that's the thing.
Yeah.
Those would be the mods that I would have also used for the armor, or for the fists, the arms of the power armor, which would have given me extra punching capacity or whatever. Like I never bothered upgrading those, so those were still just the base, and I was just using guns the whole time. But
I did a run through half of the game as John Cena, where I just punched things.
Nice.
And I was just punching things. It's like, duh, and I would just charge into people, and because I got the charge thing, and it would charge in and just be like, da 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 da.
Yeah, the strength 10 perk of like, all right, you are a battering ram, basically. Like if you run into somebody in power armor, it's going to knock them back. It's going to get them stunned. It's going to do a ton of damage to them. Yeah, that's a cool little one.
I got all those ones, and then I also got like spiked fists, and so I was like spike fisting people in the face and stuff, and like I was charging in and doing it, and it was just I would just cleave through people. Just as like, and like I did it so like my face looked like I looked like John Cena, which meant that Sean kind of looked like John Cena.
Sure.
When that happened, I was like, oh, my immersion is broken. This is a like semi-looking John Cena motherfucker. I can't handle this.
Yeah. Another thing I discovered this time around that I don't think I'd done before. Virgil, who you run into out in the glowing sea, super mutant that basically gives you the tech that you need to get into. You can do like a follow-up quest with him to like break into the FEV lab in the Institute and get his research basically, and get a serum that he had kind of created. And he found a cure for the FEV. So you go back to him a couple days later and he's no longer a super mutant. He's still stuck in the glowing sea, so he can't really go anywhere now. And that's basically how you can convince like the Institute or whoever that he's not a threat, or the Brotherhood, I guess, that he's not a threat, is like he's trapped out there in the glowing sea. He can't go anywhere because now the radiation will kill him. But yeah, you basically like you can de-super mutantify him. And he himself is like, it's only for one strain, like, and it took years to do. So if we, if we want to do this for multiple people, it's going to be a many, many years kind of thing. But it's still a cool, like, oh, they found a way to reverse being a super mutant. That's neat. So yeah, maybe somewhere down the line, it is possible to unghoulify or something like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Man,
there were some little things like that I just hadn't uncovered, despite it. I mean, Fallout 4 was my game of the year in 2015. Like I put so much time into the game back then, but still there was still so much new to see and stuff.
I remember, I think Fallout 2015 actually was that the year Overwatch came out and Stardew Valley.
I think it was. I mean, 2015, my top three were like Fallout 4, Metal Gear Solid 5, and Witcher 3. Uh, um,
Ooh, then I don't think I was that. Then 2016 is the year that I'm thinking of. I don't think I did a. I'm wondering if I did a top 10 because I wasn't in 2015. I don't think I was doing that nerdy. I don't think I was doing Naughty Gamers at the time.
Oh yeah, 2015 would have been the year we all like got together and started meeting and doing stuff. So
Oh, okay, yeah, no. So I didn't start until that January.
yeah,
Although
it was
no,
kind of funny launch, basically beginning of 2015.
yeah, no, and then you know what? Though here's the thing, I did get invited to Ari invited me to Irrational Passions one, so I definitely did a top 10.
Yeah, Overwatch was 2016.
Yeah, so I have no. Life is Strange might have been my 2015 one.
That's Life is probably Life is Strange. I didn't play until beginning of 2016, and it was very much like if I had played this when it came out in 2015, it would have very much shaken up my Game of the Year stuff.
Yeah, Life is Strange. Like I've never revisited it because I emotionally ruined me.
Mm-hmm. I went back and replayed it a couple years ago when the remastered version came out. Still a real good game. Yeah,
I don't doubt it. I think it is one of those like really truly incredible games. I understand why everybody picks their individual ending of like why like the reasons everybody had for why they made those decisions. I get. I don't know if I'd make those same decisions now. Because like I've changed.
Sure.
Like yeah, there's some stuff there. Like there's also a reason why. Like, if anybody's wondering out there, like why Cameron hasn't really picked up and gotten into Persona 3 Reloaded, there's some elements of that game that just I don't feel comfortable exploring for myself right now, as far as like certain things go. So I've seen what it's done to other people, and I'm like, that's why I didn't do it. So eventually, I will have to do that. This is also now going to make Spiritfarer a harder game to go to, for those same reasons.
Sure. Yeah, my 2015. Number 10, Batman Arkham Knight. Number 9, Lara Croft Go. Number 8, I did the tie between Lego Jurassic World and Lego Dimensions. Number 7, Ori and the Blind Forest. Number 6, Rocket League. Number 5, Rise of the Tomb Raider. Number 4, Tales from the Borderlands. Number 3, Witcher 3. Number 2, Metal Gear Solid 5. And number 1, Fallout 4. So, yeah. It's fun as I posted on Twitter. I refuse to call it X, even though they've finally like done away with the twitter.com URL. On Twitter,
does it just reroute you to x.com?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
On Twitter, I posted finally, almost 9 years later, almost 9 years after giving it my 2015 Game of the Year, I finally got the platinum in Fallout 4. And now I have all 100% trophies in Fallout 4. So yay for that. Yeah. I mean, it definitely. I was telling you last night, like as I was trying to finish up ahead of this podcast, in like the hour between us playing D&D and me coming out to like chat with you, game had crashed 3 times.
Yeah.
Game still incredibly buggy and still like my game. Over the course of playing the PS5 version, game probably crashed 30 times. And there were a couple times where I got to the point where I had to just start actively closing the game when I was done playing, because if I would leave it in like, quick resume kind of, or quick resumes Xbox, but like if I would leave it like in sleep mode and then try and come back to it, there were multiple times where game wouldn't load, and I couldn't do anything on my console. I had to like unplug it to shake anything loose. And it seemed to, in particular, coincide a couple times with them releasing patches and the game auto-installing and trying to do like basically installing a patch while I had been playing it, or like while it was still open and active. And PS5 did not like that. So yeah, like it would freeze, or I just couldn't navigate any menu. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do a hard turn up. Like if I tried to hold the power button down, nothing would happen. It was only like unplugging the system would get it up. And I was like, all right, I'm going to hope that this doesn't corrupt a save file and I'm not completely fucked after having put 80 hours into this or whatever. Fortunately, each time thing comes back on, it's like, hey, don't unplug your shit. And I'm like, you didn't give me any other options, so fuck you, warning sign. Just do your rebuilding thing and let me get back into the game. So yeah, like just incredibly, and that is the only game I've ever experienced that with. So leave it to Bethesda to find new ways to be buggy and game breaking. And every time I was like, yes, accept and send the report. I don't know what you're gonna do, but yeah, go ahead and take the last 15 seconds or 15 minutes of gameplay to see what I had done that maybe broke it. Because sometimes it was just, I'm just going from like one point to another and the game just would like crash. And I'm like, I wasn't, what? Like there, I remember in the original PS4 version, like there was one place where 3 times in a row I loaded up a save and tried to go to like a hospital that was basically overrun by super mutants, and anytime I got like in range where they would start firing at me, the game crashed. And so I was able to like regularly replicate that, and finally when I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna go somewhere else, the game worked. It was like, I don't know how to account for whatever the fuck that was. To try and avoid that, or see if something fixes that. So yeah, game still very broken, but I was able to push through and did not deal with any game breaking bugs that impeded my 100%ing all the trophies and stuff. So there you go, Fallout 4. Any final questions or thoughts or anything for Fallout 4 for me?
I don't think so. I think we're good on that. You kind of answered all my questions, all the questions that I possibly had for it. So I think we're good. But
I know when we talked about it, you were like, oh, it'll be fun to talk about like what decisions did you make and all that stuff. So yeah, I think we covered.
We kind of covered everything I wanted to know. I was really curious about how, like, what kind of faction choices you made. I know you did, quote unquote, you did everything, but yeah, I was just a bit curious about kind of like what you considered kind of your canon playthrough, so to speak.
Yeah, I would say the one I ended with, basically I did the Brotherhood and got those trophies. I did the Institute and got those trophies. And then I was like, okay, yeah, I think I did that in the other way around. I think I did the Institute first, then the Brotherhood. And so, yeah, then I basically reloaded a third save and was like, okay, this is the one that I'm going to, like, those first 2 got me the Platinum trophy. And then I was like, okay, going to reload one more save and do this again. And yeah, let's side with the Railroad this time. And it did end up being, like, in terms of like gameplay, the funnest, because it was, okay, you're going to hop on this vertibird and you're going to fly over to the Pridwin and basically blow up the Pridwin stuff. And then we're going to infiltrate the Institute and mess up their reactor core. And then when you leave, you're going to push the button and blow up the Institute. And the very disappointing thing I will say on that is I hate the ending of this game, i.e. the cutscene ending.
Yeah, it's
because it doesn't, like, in the last couple Fallout games prior to this, it was like, okay, here's the fun little epilogues that you get in each of those stories.
Yes.
This was very much like I remember my day, I remember my days before the bombs fell, and I tried to, go and chase it has no real tangible relation to the choices you made throughout there might be a different ending between, I forget, between siding with the Institute and siding with the Brotherhood or whatever. Like,
it doesn't really matter though.
But in either case, like, all of those other side things you did and all the other characters you interacted with and all the other side stories and things you did don't tie into anything. And so it was incredibly disappointing on that front. It's like, I guess I get not doing that, since a lot of those stories do just kind of wrap up in and of themselves or whatever. But yeah, like, give me a little fun screen of, here's what happened to the ship manned by robots after you sent them into another building and they're just up there. Like, tell me what they're doing. Did 100 years go by and they did make it out to sea? Tell me that.
Yeah, it's not great.
It was a letdown of a closing moment, but so be it. The ending of the Nuka World one is fun. I don't know if it's designed to specifically time out like this, but I appreciated that I did the mission at night. You basically go through you're going through the power plant of the area, and you fight off the gang that kind of turned on you. You kill the gang leader that turned on you, and then you restore power to the region. And the and it's basically like you push a button, and right in front of you of pushing this button is like a good view of the park, and the park starts to light up. Fireworks start going off. And in my playthrough, at least, all this was happening at night, so it was like the best possible way of seeing that. I imagine it could also have happened, middle of the day, and you would still see something to that effect, but it probably wouldn't have popped as much. So I did like that. And then once the park powers up, you can kind of like turn on some of the rides, and you can go on like the Ferris wheel, and you can change the setting on the teacups and stuff like that. So there's a fun little like, after you've done the quest, there are a few things you can go back and discover. There are a few places that like you couldn't get to before, including one of the star cores is basically like at the top of the Galaxy Zone area in an elevator that was powered down and doesn't get power but like you go up there and you also get a great view of the park from up there alongside picking up the last star core. So yeah, there's a little fun extra stuff that you can do kind of post game there. So maybe we'll hop back in and do that and take out the rest of the Raider gangs and be like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna be good again. Fuck you all. Go die. But yeah, those are my Fallout 4 thoughts. And so yeah, now that like comfort food is beside me, I have like Animal Well downloaded because that's been getting good buzz. I have Dave the Diver downloaded. I have the Princess Peach Showtime game. I picked that up a while back, and maybe I'll start that up and just kind of boot that up. I'm
looking at popping back into Iodine Chronicles.
Iodine Chronicle, that's out there. After the recent Xbox closing a whole bunch of studios, I was like, hey, you know what I don't need to be paying for? Game Pass. So my Game Pass still active. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice comes out, so I'll probably or Senua's Saga. I'll probably check that out before my Game Pass expires, or maybe I'll just extend it like by a month. So yeah, that's on the horizon too.
I mean, obviously I canceled mine.
Sure.
For multiple reasons. One, I was already thinking about doing it, and second, this kind of like losing my job kind of forced my hand.
Yeah.
But overall, I am looking at I want to check that out when I get the opportunity to. But mostly, I'm going to be going through some like older catalog stuff that I get through existing stuff that I already have.
Yeah.
Hell, I might just even do a Nuzlocke or something like that for Pokemon.
Sure, there you go. The other thing I'm debating right now is, do I want to pull the trigger on Hades 2? In particular, like, hey, I haven't used my Steam Deck in a while, so that'd be a good use of my Steam Deck, and that would probably be my preferred way to play Hades 2 versus like sitting here at my computer and playing it on Steam. So maybe I'll do that too. But yeah, I think it's time. I think I'm ready to hop back into the newer field of games again and see what's out there. Especially since I'm not going to be jumping into Elden Ring or Final Fantasy 14 when those hit. So figuring out these other things I want to jump into. Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to do it for this week's episode. I did not expect to talk an hour on Fallout again, but here we are. So I'm glad we decided to record earlier, so we didn't run into your family stuff this afternoon.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. You can follow Cameron at RevCabot, 2 B's and 2 T's. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, the only thing I want to give a shout out to is Disney Plus, that D Plus show rather. We just finished X-Men 97. We had an amazing conversation about that and like what we felt that we loved about it. Go check that out. It was a great time.
Yeah,
so
indeed. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey on Twitter. Indeed, yeah. Our X-Men 97 full season thoughts are up there now. We're probably going to talk some Doctor Who this week because I've been keeping up with that and am very excited to chat about that with Cameron as a fellow Whovian. So yeah, stay tuned for all that fun stuff. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. If you liked what you heard, please remember to rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun goodness. Thank you for listening. Stay nerdy and be good to each other.